honestly, I'm not too sure that I had an answer to that question. And even if I did have an answer, the time for me was too short to dissipate on answering things that are not productive, things that are not going to be helpful. But I'm sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased that we are gathered here in His name. We are not elsewhere doing other things. We have agreed to look at what the models of Islam are in addressing the situation that we have found ourselves. All we needed to do first is to redefine ourselves, ask the fundamental question: who are we? Do we have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What is the nature of that relationship if we say we have a relationship with Him? If we had a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, most probably we will not become aware that there are challenges. Some companions of the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, had gone to the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, and they said, we fast in the month of Ramadan. We go to Hajj when Allah makes it possible for us to go to Hajj. We pray 5 times a day. We give out sadaqah when it is possible for us to give out sadaqah. But we are worried. We are troubled by what Allah had revealed to you. Allah had revealed a passage of the Quran which they said worried or troubled them. Allah said, Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard. Wa in tubudu ma fi anfusikum aw tukhfuhu yuhasibu billah. Falyaghfiru liman yasha wa yuhazzibu man yasha. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. They said they were troubled by the fact that Allah said, I will hold you accountable for what was in your heart. And they said, we pray, we fast, but we are not able to control what is in our heart, what comes in there, or what we think inside of us. And so they went to the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him. And they said, this was our little wahala. The countenance of the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, changed. He was enraged. He felt so bad. And he said to them, you want to be like those before you who would hear and they would not obey? They will hear and they will not obey. The intention was not to be disobedient. The intention was just to express how worried they were. And the Prophet said, Gufranaka Rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. Samina wa atana Gufranaka Rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. The Prophet said this to them in anger. And so they repeated what the Prophet had said to them. Once they repeated what the Prophet had said, Allah sent Jibreel to the Prophet and said, Amana Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun. Kullun amana billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi. La nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusul wa qalu sami'na wa ata'na. Sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. And Allah picked the words of the Prophet and which the popular had, Gufranaka Rabbana wa ilayka al-masir. Those were the words of Prophet and his companions. But Allah honored them by picking the words and making them his own words, and they became part of the Quran, which we must read until the end of time. Why was it so? Because they had committed themselves. And for Allah to remove the fear that they had in their mind, He said, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha laha man kasabat wa alayha ma iktasabat. Allah would not give you a burden far much more than you'll be able to carry. And Allah's promises are true. And so what made this possible was because these individuals have connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah, in one of the traditions of the Prophet Islam, Allah said, O you children of Adam, There is no power, no sovereignty will be able to dominate or oppress you for as long as my sovereignty remains. Those were Allah's words. No power, no sovereignty will dominate you for as long as that of me, Allah, remains. And Allah qualified it, and He said, my sovereignty is forever. Meaning forever, none will dominate you. And He said, poverty would never ever be part of yours, or of you, for as long as my treasure house is never empty, and it shall never ever be empty. And He said, it shall never ever be empty. And He said, do not ask me for the food you will eat tomorrow. Do not ask me concerning the food you will eat tomorrow, because I have not asked you for the worship of tomorrow. For today, I take it upon myself to provide for you what you will eat. 99.9%, if not 100+% of our worries, it's not about what we will eat now, it's what we will eat tomorrow. And how will you find a solution where Allah will be there, when by Himself He says, do not ask me about it, because I have not asked you concerning the worship of tomorrow. And so, whatever the difficulties, and He ended up by saying, oh, you children of Adam, to which we all proudly belong, I love you. And so He requires that we should love Him more. So if the focus is about loving Allah and stuff like that, what that will imply is that we'll be more concerned about how do we deepen our connection with Him, how do we have a relationship that is lasting. And I'm sure that the lecturer for today, who I have no doubt has capacity, will be telling us, if we are practitioners of what Allah had said, we will have no problem. He says, give us zakat. It explains why each time He says, wa aqimu salat, it follows it with wa to zakat. Once He talks about one, He says the other. He says, ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la ta'kulu riba adhafa mudha'afa wa taqullaha la'allakum tuflihun wa turhamun. He says, oh, you who believe, do not get involved in the multiplication of riba, which obviously is what we all are doing. And so when you do that, what do you get? In Surah At-Tawbah, He had warned, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى قَالَ رَبِّي لِمَنْ حَشَرْتَنِي أَعْمَى قَالَ كَذَلِكَ أَتَتْكَ آيَاتُنَا فَنَسِيتَهَا وَكَذَلِكَ يَوْمَ تُنسَى. He says, when we depart from all of the things He had said, He makes us live a very necessitous life, a very difficult life. Nigeria is stupendously rich, but people are suffering because the resources are being stolen. And we clap for those who steal. And we praise them. We only complain when we are not beneficiaries and stuff like that. He said, I will make life narrow for you. And on the last day, I will resurrect you a blind person. And you will complain, why are you raising me blind today when I used to see in the world that was before now? And Allah will say, so it is. You forgot our signs, and today is our turn to forget you. So all of the difficulties, wherever they are coming from, are a consequence of where our focus is. Our focus is in this world. It is not in the world that is to come. When the coordinator and I were coming here, she said more people would have been here, but they went for the 40-day fidao of someone who had died. So you see, we are very active in participating in such things. But the lesson that was supposed to be drawn, we don't draw them. But just imagine a situation when that fellow who is gone, he's gone. The lights were disappearing for him. He wasn't seeing them anymore. And so you dig a grave. When you say things are hard, how hard are they For the man, whether things were hard for him or not, they had a bus stop. When he got to the bus stop, he was separated from the hardship or whatever pleasure he knew. So they were turned down. There is the one, he's gone to that one which does not end. If it is pleasure, it's unending. If it is punishment, it's unending. By the time they removed him, we were there, we looked at him, his children would not want to come close when we were removing him into the vehicle to take home. By the time they took him out, they would dig a hole. The hole would be so bright. They will put him inside of that hole like they would do for each and every one of us. They will start covering the hole with plants. There will be small area where the light will still be entering. They will not cover those areas with leaf or mass, and they will not use sand to cover it. Absolute darkness. So beyond the suffering of, it is for us to be more concerned about that darkness when everybody would have left us and we are alone in a state of consciousness, because as they go we are woken up to the reality. Am I dead? Am I dead? Am I alive? You just come to realize that yes, you are dead, just there with the things that you have done. Allah would not cause any of his servants to complain. But you know the problem 99.9% of us have, even when our bank accounts are swollen with money, that if we do not use now, some other person will use them, the sins will be ours, the profit will be theirs. We have them, but it has become the common language in our mouth. Things are so rough. When you say so, the angels will say, Amen. No servant of Allah ever will say things are rough. There is no 1 trillion Tinubu that can create a situation that Allah's power has not overwhelmed. Allah will deal with us as individuals, and Allah will deal with us only within the context of what we ought to have done that we did not do, for which he said, وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنكُمْ خَاصَّةً. So we just clap for people when they do. We complain only when we are not benefiting. The true whatever benefit, the true life is not to struggle. Regardless, Allah says in the same hadith we quoted that if you are contented with what he has given to you, he will put pleasure in your mind. When you are not contented, it will cause the world to lose on you, and you'll be running like a mad animal, and you will never be satisfied. And at the end of the day, you will only get what he has decreed for you. What he has decreed for each and every one of us is already decreed. The only place we come in is how do we acquire it, the halal way or the haram way. Every $1 billion you stole was decreed for you to get. You could have, if you were only patient, gotten it the halal way, but you choose to be too fast, so you got it the haram way. These are the little things we must do what is called muhasabah. Before we begin to say, hey, Tinubu is responsible for this, let's ask ourselves, because Allah will not be asking us about Tinubu. If I die now, what will Allah be asking me? He said, be mindful of what you bring forth for the hereafter, not what Tinubu brings. He has his own load, I have my own load. What will Allah be asking me if I were to meet with him now? Why should I fear poverty to the point that another person is hungry? And I say, I will eat this food tomorrow if I share now. Who told you you will find tomorrow? And who told you that if tomorrow finds you, Allah will not give you a better food? Because the one you want to keep now becomes stale in comparison to the one Allah will give you. If we were to allow it to go by way of zakat, for those for whom zakat is due, we don't pay that anyway. If you don't pay zakat, because you can't say, for those who were supposed to do sadaqah, we don't do. I have 1,000 in my pocket. Somebody says he's hungry, and my thinking is, I can make this 1,000 to be 2,000. So if I took out of it to give that person, it's going down, so I will not give, because it's not even compulsory for me to do so. When we do all of that, we are crowding the space with people who are crying. And rather than cry to Allah in the prayer that we do, who is our Rahman, What majority of us do is to cry to those who do not have mercy, and you abandon the one who is merciful, and you report him to the one without mercy. When we desist from all of this, you can be sure that society will be a much better. I just felt I should say all of this because we have a lecturer, and I pray that Allah will assist him to deliver his lecture and make it much easier for us to understand. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.